right. It is Wednesday. It's Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. It's 4:52 a.m. and I'm on my way to the gym right now. I'm not an expert at anything. Let's be very clear. But having been around enough hustlers, enough educated people, prostitute, everything in every walk of life that you can think about, I've been around, I've been exposed to. You end up learning how to pick up certain things. And I think the easiest thing that most people can pick up is an excuse, right? Because the excuse is opposite of doing something, right? You say, hey, I'd like to lose weight, but here comes the excuse. I'd like to have a job, but here comes the excuse. I'd like to be in my child's life, but. And I think the excuse part of life, I think a lot of people see it, know what it is. But I've been able to take it a step further and look at not just excuses, but things that people say that set up the excuse. It's like, I know somewhere down the road, during whatever we're doing, I'm going to need a back door out of this. I'm gonna need an escape route, because everything inside of me knows that I've never started something and finished it. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my excuse right now. That way later on I can say, hey, I told you. I told you this was a possibility of happening. So you can't be mad. If it's God's will. The only thing God don't want is for you to take whatever he gives you and do something wrong with it. He don't want to give you $1 million and you become a pedophile. He doesn't want to give you a house and you start running drugs out of it. I believe God will block your request if they're not in the right vein. But I've recognized people use if it's God's will as an excuse. If it's God's will. Well, what are you asking for? Well, I'm asking for this. Well, this sounds too bad. Why do you think God would deny you that? Well, it's not big enough. He also said, don't forsake the days of small beginnings. So he understands it ain't always going to be big. Sometimes people can't handle big. Don't give a first-time driver a Ferrari. That could almost guaranteed lead to something bad happening. And so I bring all that up to say I caught myself recently in a dilemma. And I know who's the master of confusion. Because when you're confused about which way to go, most of the time you just don't go nowhere. Sometimes I ask my wife, what do you want to eat? She said, well, I want to eat here. I said, well, I don't want to eat here. I want to eat there. She said, well, I don't want to eat there. Well, let's eat, just eat at home. We don't go nowhere. the simple act of indecision is a tiring process. It's more tiring than just making a decision and saying, I'm just going to go this way, and I'm going to have undeniable confidence that this way is going to be the right way, and it is what it is. And I was stuck in that recently. I was stuck in that. I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm not sure. What if I'm supposed to be doing that? What if I'm taking this time to do? And I had to sit there, and I was like, oh, you good? Oh, you good? I was in such a state of confusion that I was going through anxiety, and I thought that was God. I was like, I wasn't even conscious enough to know that the way I'm feeling ain't of God. This is not a good feeling. I don't like feeling indecisive. And you know what I had to do? I had to make a decision. And I simply said, God, I'm going to make this decision. I know how it's going to turn out. I trust you. Now let's go. And from this moment forward, this is the only direction I'm going in, and no other. And no other. Too often we're using excuses for things that we can very well just make a decision about. But we're caught in the process. You ain't never got to make an excuse about if it's God's will. Well, if it's something that'll further you, I don't see why God would have a problem with it. Well, maybe I'm not thinking big enough. Well, you ain't even got nothing. So I don't think it's a big enough thing. I think it's a patient thing. Are you patient? Are you working in the direction of what it is that you want, and are you patient enough to let it happen? But also be clear. People will be asking for stuff. Hey, I want a husband. You got one. He beats you once a week, calls you names every day. You got one. Instead of being clear, I want a good husband. I want a God-fearing husband. I want a husband who respects me, who builds me up, who encourages me. Be specific. What do you want? And that's what you'll get. But being caught in that excuse, being caught in confusion, that is not going to get you anywhere. And it's so easy to do it. But the easiest way to break out of it is if you know your heart's right, and whatever the decision that you can make, even if it's what school I should go to. Should I go to Harvard? Should I go to Yale? Should I go stay in the Valley? What should I do? Hey, where would you like to go? Well, I'd like to go to Harvard. Go to Harvard then. And you know what? Let the chips fall where they may, but ask and be specific about what it is that you want. You can't go wrong when you know for sure what it is that you want.